Hi, I'm Jeff Murrah. I want to welcome you to True Texas History, where today we'll be talking about the mysterious death of a Supreme Court justice. And no, I am not talking about Justice Scalia, although that is not the first Supreme Court justice that has ended up dead under mysterious circumstances in Texas. The one I am going to be talking about is James Collinsworth. Now, James Collinsworth started off his career in Tennessee before he had come to Texas. And he was there with a lot of the founding fathers and apparently was quite an able statesman. In fact, James Collinsworth was one of two agents sent to Washington, Washington City as it was called back then, in the early days of the Republic by President Burnett to go ahead and attempt to secure annexation for Texas. And this was after he had distinguished himself at the Battle of San Jacinto. So this was an able-bodied man who accomplished quite a few things. And Burnett sent he and Peter Grayson up there as agents. Now, they were not successful, and they were brought back later on. It is interesting that one of them, after not succeeding there in Washington, made it a point of stopping by the residence of Andrew Jackson to go ahead and talk to him about some things. And of course, that would have been Collinsworth, being from that state at one point. In fact, prior to coming to Texas, he had made some request of Andrew Jackson to go ahead and be a judge. But anyways, getting back to the story, James Collinsworth was a man that was on the rise. His star was going places. He had been in several judgeships in the early Republic. In fact, had been appointed Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And where things get interesting is that in the first, well, actually the second election for president, where Marabou Lamar was running against two other candidates, Peter Grayson and James Collinsworth, both of these men who had previously worked in diplomatic circles. The weird thing is, Grayson, due to health issues, went ahead and killed himself up in Tennessee. And next thing you know, James Collinsworth mysteriously committed suicide by jumping into Galveston Bay. Now, a lot of the history books don't go much into it. I had to go ahead and dig through some older books to find out what did happen to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Well, he was on a bender. The man had been drunk for about a week, and he ended up walking off the boat into Galveston Bay and died. And that actually ended up being the first Masonic funeral in Texas as well. So James Collinsworth was well on his way to becoming a hero, except his drinking problems got in the way. And this cleared the way. Marabou Lamar won the election for president because both the candidates that he was running against had committed suicide prior to the election. Weird, huh? This is just one of those mysterious things in Texas history that, still have historians asking questions about, what would have happened had James Collinsworth gone ahead and survived. Well, it would have been quite interesting. I think we would have been looking at some different policies. I believe Collinsworth would have been closer to the policies of Houston, whereas Lamar was very diametrically opposed to Houston in many of his policies. And we probably wouldn't be looking at capital of Austin because the move to Austin was by Marabou Lamar. in his administration. And that has remained a mainstay with Texas for many years since then. Of course, back then it was known as Waterloo and not as Austin, but that's a whole nother story. Well, I want to thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. And this today, July the 11th, marks the anniversary of when Collinsworth went ahead and killed himself there in Galveston Bay just prior to the election. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments, things you want to share, feel free to leave them below, and I'll be glad to get to them. Thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.